Thank you very much, Marjorie, and thanks to you for chairing today. To start with, thanks to Joe for all of her organising of the event, and Claire, who's done a whole range of work to support the online learning element of today. And finally, to each of our three speakers. Everybody is kind of very welcome. Sharon and I, when we were looking with Joe and colleagues at today's event, thought it would be useful to just provide some brief context. So the second slide that we have, we wrote 3 slides. This next slide just summarizes and provides some context to do with the work of the Research Circle and how it fits with some wider work that the Centenary Commission has done. I recognise from looking at people's names and faces, some of you have been with us before, but we thought this was helpful for those who are new to our events today. So what you see there is a kind of a chronology from 2019 to 21. And the starting point for the work was the Centenary Commission report at the end of 2019, and both Sharon and Scilla Ross on the call today were part of that commission and were co-authors of that report. And what led from the report were a series of events in 2020, and it was those events, and in particular an event hosted by the Cooperative College, which provided the starting point for the Research Circle. So Sharon, in the summer of 2020, led an event looking at a particular element to do with the report. And that particular element to do with community democracy and dialogue has become our central focus and has become our recurring touchstone. What happened after that event was that a whole group of us, and many of us are on the call today, 8 to 10 different participants met to plan out a series of events. We met in the early part of 2021 to plan events, and in parallel there was a short, relatively small piece of research that I did with Sharon and John Holford, and the participation of the later much missed Nigel Todd, that produced a report that you can see in the bottom right hand of that slide. So what that work was doing, and from our point of view in particular, was coming back to this central theme of community democracy and dialogue. So on the third slide, what we can see is a sort of a summary of those first 3 events that we held. So we asked particular questions, and we had a kind of a recurring emphasis, which was very much about extending what were perhaps, we would argue, and I think although there was debate within the group, I think we would argue is that why is that dominant definition and practices of lifelong learning problematic? Why do we need to extend and develop a wider set of practices in terms of adult lifelong education? And that was the kind of a recurring theme in those events. When we reviewed those events, what we then agreed was that in 2022, today's event being the launch of this, was that a second series with the title, as you can see at the bottom of slide 3, around dialogues for democracy, cultures and ecologies in crisis. And I think Lyndon West, a member of the Research Circle, I think it was Lyndon who suggested that this very powerful title. So that really gives the link between our first phase of events, and on the final slide, slide 4, just gives you the kind of an overview of how today fits with 2 further events. So we've got today's event, and that will be followed by 2 other events in both June and July. So hopefully that's been useful in giving you what Sharon and I thought was a useful kind of framework and a picture. So that's the context. Back to Marjorie to introduce our first speaker, and it's great to see everybody here today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Iain.